This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Monday, January 4th. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. We begin in Niger, where Prime Minister Brigi Rafini says 100 civilians were killed in two brutal attacks on Saturday. Rafini says 70 people were killed in the village of Tchombangou and 30 others in the village of Zaroumdareye. He did not say who was responsible for the attacks. However, Niger has suffered repeated attacks by Islamist militants linked to Qaeda and Islamic State near its borders with Mali and Burkina Faso, part of a wider security crisis in West Africa's Sahel region. Meanwhile, the country's presidential election is heading for a second round. David Doyle has our report.
Niger's presidential election will be decided in February, according to provisional results, after neither of the two main candidates secured 50% of the vote. That announcement coming from the Electoral Commission on Saturday, a day on which the significant challenges facing the ultimate winner were underlined in brutal fashion. Security sources said suspected Islamist militants had killed at least 70 civilians near the West African country's border with Mali. The simultaneous attacks on two villages are thought to be the latest example of violence by militants linked to Qaeda and Islamic State that has plagued countries across the Sahel. For Niger, the violence is just one crisis. Its economic situation is also critical, with more than 40% of the population living in extreme poverty. Tasked with leading the country out of the turbulence will be Niger's ruling party candidate Mohamed Bazoum or opposition leader and former president Mahamadou Ousmane. Bazoum is the favourite and in the stronger position after the first round. He led with more than 39% of the vote. Ousmane, the closest challenger in a crowded field, had 17%. The second round is expected to be held on February the 21st.
That was David Doyle of Reuters reporting. A Spanish-flagged humanitarian ship is seeking a port of safety for 265 migrants its crew rescued from the Mediterranean Sea in the last few days. The Open Arms charity tweeted that its vessel on Saturday had safely brought aboard 96 migrants who had been adrift in a wooden boat without life vests in international waters. The charity says the passengers, most of them from Eritrea, included 2 women and 17 minors, and they were suffering from hypothermia. In a separate operation 2 days before that rescue, Open Arms took aboard 169 migrants who had departed Libyan shores where many human traffickers are based. African countries are now officially trading under a new continent-wide free trade area. The new pact launched after months of delays caused by the global coronavirus pandemic. Megan Revell has the details.
New Year's Day marked the dawn of a new era for trade in Africa. A new continent-wide free trade area came into force after months of delays. Experts view the launch as largely symbolic, with full implementation of the deal expected to take years. But the World Bank estimates it could lift tens of millions out of poverty by 2035. The African Continental Free Trade Area aims to bring together 1.3 billion people in a $3.4 trillion economic bloc. That would make it the largest free trade area since the establishment of the World Trade Organization. Backers say it will boost trade among African neighbours while allowing the continent to develop its own value chains. But obstacles remain and must be overcome if the bloc is to reach its full potential, from red tape and poor infrastructure to entrenched protectionism of various members. Every African country except Eritrea has signed on to the framework agreement, with 34 countries already having ratified it.
Megan Revell of Reuters with that report. The head of the Africa Centers for Disease Control warns that wealthy nations have acquired vaccines more than what they need as countries across Africa are facing a second wave of COVID-19. John Kengasong says the world risks a moral catastrophe if COVID vaccinations are delayed in Africa, while wealthier regions inoculate their entire populations. Kengasong told reporters that the Africa CDC hopes that significant vaccination programs will begin across Africa in April. He warned that, quote, the second wave is here with a vengeance. According to Africa CDC data, the continent had recorded 2.7 million infections and 64,000 deaths as of December 31st. South Africa, where a new variant of the virus has been detected, recorded 82,000 cases in the past week. The United States has fallen far short of its goal to vaccinate 20 million people against COVID-19 by the end of December, but the pace of vaccinations is picking up. Michelle Quinn has our report.
More than 350,000. That is the number of people in the U.S. who have died from COVID-19, the disease caused by the coronavirus. That is about 1/5 of the worldwide deaths from the illness. President Donald Trump said on Twitter that the numbers of COVID-19 cases and deaths in the U.S. are exaggerated because of the way the country determines cases. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the U.S. top infectious disease expert, disagrees.
Well, the deaths are real deaths. I mean, all you need to do is to go out into the trenches, go to the hospitals, see what the healthcare workers are dealing with. They are under very stressed situations.
The effort to vaccinate people has stumbled. As of December 31st, about 2.8 million people had been vaccinated, a fraction of the goal of 20 million the government had set. A miscalculation about the supply of vaccines and a lack of coordination among federal, state, and local governments are at fault.
You have to have a real interaction, a real partnership between the federal government and the states. That's what we're trying to do. Hopefully that will then materialize as we get into the beginning of this year.
President Trump has said that the federal government has distributed vaccines, but states have to speed up administering the shots. The virus in the vaccination campaign. It's a race the U.S. hopes to win in the new year. Michelle Quinn, VOA News.
A highly infectious coronavirus variant originally discovered in Britain has been detected in California, where many hospitals are overwhelmed by COVID-19 patients. The discovery follows documentation of the first known U.S. case of the new strain in Colorado. More from VOA's correspondent, Maria Madiallo.
California Governor Gavin Newsom made an unsettling announcement Wednesday during an online conversation with Dr. Anthony Fauci, America's top infectious disease expert.
We were informed that this new variant, this new strain that we've identified, obviously from the United Kingdom, some other parts of the globe, identified in Colorado yesterday, has been identified here in the state of California, in Southern California.
Fauci said he wasn't surprised.
I don't think that the Californians should feel that this is something odd. This is something that's expected.
The discovery in California comes as the state is consumed by a growing pandemic crisis, including record deaths. Hospitals are scrambling to handle a crush of desperately ill patients, and the infection rate could soar further in coming weeks. Fauci shared what he knows about the new strain.
It's able to bind to the receptors on cells better, and therefore is transmitted better. There's no indication at all that it increases the virulence. And by virulence, I mean the ability to make you sick or kill you. It doesn't seem to make it more strong in that regard. In addition, it doesn't seem to evade the protection that's afforded by the antibodies that are induced by vaccines.
A day earlier, the first known U.S. case was reported in Colorado, contracted by a man in his 20s who lives in a mostly rural area. A second case is also suspected, health officials said.
Both of these cases are Colorado National Guard personnel who were deployed to support staffing at the Good Samaritan Society nursing home in Simla, Colorado. Neither of these cases has traveled internationally in the weeks prior to their illness.
Colorado officials say the infected patient has mild symptoms and is currently isolated. Meanwhile, the number of COVID-19 confirmed cases in the U.S. has exceeded 19.7 million, while more than 343,000 deaths are blamed on the virus. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
India is granting emergency approval to 2 vaccines for COVID-19, setting the stage for what could be the world's largest immunization program. As Anjana Pasricha reports from New Delhi, this raises hopes of bringing the pandemic under control in a country where the daily count of new infections has been declining in recent weeks.
The first doses will start reaching recipients in India sometime this month, following the emergency authorization granted to the British-developed AstraZeneca vaccine that is being produced by the Serum Institute of India and one called Covaxin, developed by a domestic company, Bharat Biotech. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called the development a decisive turning point to strengthen a spirited fight. The country has set the ambitious target of immunizing 300 million people by August. Healthcare workers, security personnel, those over 50 years of age, and the clinically vulnerable. It has been preparing cold storage facilities and training health workers to administer the shots for what could be the world's largest immunization programs for the outbreak.
The preparations have been fully made. The logistics have been worked out with the different state governments. It all depends, of course, on the availability of vaccine in terms of the volume and in terms of the health workforce that is available.
The delivery system was tested with a nationwide dry run on Saturday.
Our arrangements are satisfactory. We have waiting room, our vaccination room and monitoring area.
India starts with an advantage. More than 50 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine have been stockpiled by the Serum Institute, the world's largest vaccine manufacturer. But questions have been raised over lack of adequate data for the domestically developed vaccine that is still undergoing stage 3 trials. Health experts, however, are optimistic. They say the vaccines will afford protection even from the highly transmissible mutant strain from Britain. About 30 such cases have raised worries at a time when new infections have been declining. The coronavirus causes the COVID-19 disease.
The virus will not be able to evade those vaccine-induced immune mechanisms. So it is unlikely that there should be any significant problem over there.
The vaccines bring hope to a country where the virus has infected more than 10 million people and claimed nearly 150,000 lives. The country of 1.3 billion has the world's second largest number of cases.
It does protect you against severe illness, and that is going to be very important in terms of not only life-saving, but even younger people have been now known, even if they do not manifest many symptoms, to still suffer silent damage to their lungs and heart.
Both vaccines can be stored in refrigerators and are more affordable compared to those by Pfizer and Moderna. Anjana Pasricha for VOA News, New Delhi.
With Istanbul facing further COVID restrictions at the start of the new year, scores of public spaces across the city have become venues for light installations as part of a major art exhibition. Dorian Jones reports the aim is to lift people's spirits in these dark times.
In the heart of Istanbul, rays of light in a city grappling with the darkness of soaring coronavirus infections and ever-tightening restrictions. The Turkish city's entertainment has been all but shut down for months. But an exhibition with dozens of art installations across the city aims to bring light and with it hope.
2020 was a dark year and full of uncertainties, and the COVID-19 virus also makes everything so hard. That's why we want to make something positive and something like light, something like joy. Every artwork has different conceptual meanings. If you dig a little, you'll see something more than that, more than light actually.
Light displays crafted by over 50 artists can be seen across the city as they illuminate the sky over Istanbul. The exhibition, backed by Istanbul's city mayor, provides financial support to the city's vibrant art community, which has been hit hard by the lockdowns. It's also an opportunity for artists to reinterpret their work.
Kadın şiddetine karşı Karanlığı Aydınlat projesinin bir parçasıydı.
My piece was originally part of the project, Light the Darkness for Violence Against Women. Here in the time of the pandemic, it is very special for us to project the light of art to the people and bring some brightness to these dark days with this exhibition.
The exhibition offers a welcome distraction in a city that is the center of Turkey's pandemic.
I am glad that in a place which I call part of my home, there is such consciousness raised and communicated to the greater public.
Istanbul's famed restaurant quarter should be packed in the run-up to the new year, but has been shuttered for months. Restrictions are set to tighten further, with a 4-day lockdown starting New Year's Eve in a bid to rein in soaring infections. For Istanbul's residents, the exhibition offers a welcome shaft of light in dark times. Dorian Jones, VOA News, Istanbul.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover during the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Somalia's quest to go international with its camel milk industry faces challenges. Stay with us.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Two crucial Senate runoff elections are being held in the southern U.S. state of Georgia on Tuesday, with inflammatory accusations still circulating about the state's handling of November's presidential election. As Mike O'Sullivan reports, the rhetoric about election fraud has reached dangerous levels, casting a cloud over the runoffs.
Protesters, supported by Donald Trump, continue to say he was the real winner of the November presidential election. It's a claim he has made repeatedly himself.
With the turn of a dial or the change of a chip, you can press a button for Trump and the vote goes to Biden. What kind of a system is this?
But these and other baseless claims of fraud have been dismissed by election officials from both parties and nearly all observers who see no evidence the vote was rigged. William Barr, who resigned as Attorney General December 23rd, also found no evidence of pervasive fraud. A political scientist goes further.
This is probably one of the best run elections the United States has ever done. I mean, basically the turnout was so gigantic and it was done very smoothly. And there's almost no documented cases of any serious problems in the race.
Yet the ongoing allegations are affecting next Tuesday's runoff elections in Georgia for 2 Senate seats. The results of that vote will determine which party controls the Senate. The claims of irregularities in mail-in ballots and accusations against computerized machines from Dominion voting systems have raised doubts among some. Doubts fanned by President Trump.
Unfortunately, in Georgia, they're using the same horrible Dominion system.
Dominion Systems says its employees have received death threats based on fabricated charges. Trump supporters and Republican officials have filed more than 50 lawsuits, trying but failing to reverse the results in swing states that Biden won. An effort to take their case to the Supreme Court was condemned by Biden.
This legal maneuver was an effort by elected officials and one group of states to try to get the Supreme Court to wipe out the votes of more than 20 million Americans in other states.
A November recount in Georgia confirmed that Biden indeed won there. Georgia's top election official, a Republican, said the issue was settled in his state.
I live by the motto that numbers don't lie.
His statement led to threats against state employees. Another Georgia election official issued a plea in early December.
Mr. President, you have not condemned these actions or this language. Senators, you have not condemned this language or these actions. This has to stop.
Some Senate Republicans acknowledge Biden's win, but Trump's claims of fraud have clouded the Georgia runoff, as the parties fight in a tight election with high stakes for both sides. Mike O'Sullivan, VOA News.
The final step in the constitutional process of electing a U.S. president takes place on Wednesday with a normally ceremonial footnote, which is attracting outsized attention because of court-rejected charges of voter fraud. VOA Steve Reddish explains.
Joe Biden knows what happens next in his journey to be inaugurated as President of the United States. He's done it twice, first in January 2013.
To verify the certificates and count the votes of the electors of the several states for President and Vice President of the United States.
And again 4 years later, January 6th, 2017, carrying out the Vice President's constitutionally mandated duty of presiding over a joint session of Congress to open and count the sealed electoral votes from the 50 states.
Donald Trump of New York has received, for President of the United States, 304 votes.
The 12th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution outlines the duties for the sitting Vice President, who, as the President of the Senate, shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. How and when that happens can be found in the U.S. Code of Laws, Chapter 3, subsection 15, Counting Electoral Votes in Congress. It is legislation that dates back to 1887, amended and codified in 1948. It designates January 6th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for the President of the Senate to preside over a joint session of Congress, open the sealed certificates containing electoral votes from the 50 states, and have them counted in alphabetical order. Subsection 15 also provides the opportunity for members to object to each state's vote count, provided it is presented in writing and signed by at least one senator and one member of the House of Representatives.
Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
Mr. President, the objection is in writing, signed by a member of the House of Representatives, but not yet by a member of the United States Senate.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
In 2005, the electoral vote count was suspended for just the second time ever when an objection met the required threshold.
Has the senator signed the objection?
The senator has signed the objection.
An objection presented in writing and signed by both a representative and a senator complies with the law, Chapter 1 of Title 3, United States Code.
Both houses of Congress retreated to their individual chambers for no more than 2 hours of debate, followed by a simple majority vote on the objection, which failed to be sustained.
They cheated and they rigged our presidential election. But we will
Amid President Donald Trump's unsubstantiated claims of vote fraud, it will be his Vice President, Mike Pence, presiding over the electoral vote count that declares Joe Biden the winner of the 2020 presidential election. At least one member of the House, Alabama Republican Mo Brooks, and one senator, Republican Josh Hawley of Missouri, say they plan to raise an objection during Wednesday's vote count. With a Democratic majority in the House, any objection will most likely be defeated. Steve Reddish, VOA News, Washington.
Somalia is home to the world's largest camel population, and camel milk plays an important role in Somali food. The camel milk industry is trying to expand beyond the domestic market, but it is facing some challenges, as Mohammed Sheikh Noor reports from Mogadishu.
Somalia is the world's biggest producer of camel milk. Badr Camel Farm on the outskirts of Mogadishu produces 36,000 liters of camel milk per month. Veterinarian Abdulrazak Mira says camel milk is healthy and not just for camels.
Camel milk is a nutritious resource that God gave to humans. Camel milk is rich in multiple vitamins and protein, calcium, iron, and potassium. It is a complete food.
Known in Africa as white gold for its nutritional value, camel milk is a regular part of Somali diets.
I am a regular customer here and always buy a packet of milk each day. It is the favorite drink for my aging grandmother and blind uncle. Drinking camel milk keeps us all healthy.
Jama Umar owns a few camel farms, but says all of the milk produced is for the domestic market.
There is no doubt about our ambition to export camel milk to other parts of the world, especially to the West. But the question is this an easy task? I would say no, because Somalia and other Africans face difficulties as what they produce is never appreciated.
Camel milk's reputation as a superfood has spread from herders to African cities and is slowly gaining international attention. Getting the milk certified safe for foreign markets is part of the challenge. Somalia's livestock ministry says it is working on a law to boost camel milk exports.
Currently, our country has no formal structures for exporting camel milk, and what goes out of the country is few and far between. Local demand remains high. Nonetheless, we are developing a national policy, and after it is discussed in Parliament, endorsed by the Cabinet, and the President agrees, then Somalia will have a milk law that enables us to export camel milk.
The ministry plan is to also build cold storage collection centers to ensure the milk is well preserved for reaching new markets. Mohammed Sheikh Noor for VOA News, Mogadishu, Somalia.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.